One of our favorite things about fall is the harvest and preserving that harvest. Today we're going to talk about that and one of the tools that makes that quick and easy. Hey, Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Kylene, and it's harvest time, which is an exciting time for us. Actually, fall's most exciting for me because that's when I met Jonathan. So it reminds me of that all the time. But also it means that all summer long we have worked hard in our garden, and this is the time when we just have this bountiful harvest and we preserve our food for the winter time. And so
a fitting reward.
A fitting reward, yeah, because
Yes.
then all winter long you don't have the work, but we have all these beautiful bottles of deliciousness that we get to use, and so we really love that. Sometimes by the end of the season, my tomatoes look like this, and while some of them are not so beautiful anymore, we can still use them. Now, if I were to bottle tomatoes like this would take so much work. But we have a secret that we do. Also with the tomato, or with the cherry tomatoes, you'll find you have so many, and yet you're no longer able to eat all the cherry tomatoes that you have. And what are you going to do with them? Well, we turn them into a juice. We just wash them, and we'll pull off like the stems and things, and any bad spots we'll cut out, and then we cook them down. And then we put them through this juicer. Once the juice is, once we have all that tomato juice, then I'll add when I cook it down, right, I reduce it a bit until it's the right thickness, and then I'll add my chopped peppers and onions and cook it and bottle it, and then I have delicious, amazing salsa. And so that's one of the things that we do with the tomato, and that's what this video is actually about today, is this juicer. You want to tell them a little bit about it?
Sure. This is the Weston Strainer. I call it a Weston Strainer. I found this a few years ago, and we have the hand crank kind, but it was starting to get old and have a few problems. So I thought, well, it's time to look around, and I found this, and it has just been an amazing tool. This does plums, it does tomatoes, it does apricots, it does apples. So many things you can put through here, and it comes with these stainless steel screens. The one that's in it is a medium. This is a tiny holes. This is big holes. For almost everything, we use the medium size. That allows some of the, it gives me a little more, because I'm the engineer and I like to measure things and I like to optimize things. So it lets a little bit more of the stuff come out without the big one letting too much stuff out, if that makes any sense. Anyway.
Okay, wait. This is so funny because we actually have discussions about this, because okay, in my salsa has seeds.
It does.
If we use this one, my salsa wouldn't have any seeds in it, but he likes that one and he likes it to be just a little bit chunkier, and so my salsa always has seeds because this is his job. He's the one that operates this. But the journey to finding this was actually kind of interesting, because at first, like he was talking about, we had this hand crank, and it was just a lot of work. Did it work? Absolutely.
Yeah, it worked really well.
But for those of you who can or bottle things at home, it's a lot of work. And by the time you fall into bed at night, you're sore, you're tired. And so he was looking for a way to simplify it. And I have a KitchenAid, and he bought this little electric attachment for the KitchenAid, which works fine. But when I'm doing bushels of apples in one day, it's impossible. It's impossible. And so this was his next compromise. This was what he looked at, and then it seriously, it works really fast.
Yeah, and the other one was pretty good, but the hopper was just so small on it. And that's one thing I like about this one. It's got this nice big hopper. You can put a lot of stuff in here. But if she sweet talks me, I will use the smaller sieve.
I haven't seen that yet.
But she hasn't sweet talked me quite enough yet, I guess. But anyway, very simple to use. The motor's over here. Obviously the hopper here with the plunger that helps. Some things go through pretty easily. Some things you just have to push a little bit. Nothing difficult. And then your juice is coming out here. And then you have the scraps coming out here. This is going to be you know, some of the seeds, like apple seeds, all come out here.
The skins.
Parts of the cores, the skins and everything, all come out here into our little poop bucket.
Which gets fed to the chickens, and so
Sure.
nothing is wasted.
Yeah.
Like, nothing is wasted.
Now, when we got this, I realized that this was making us a little bit dependent on electricity, and that's, you know, that is always one of our concerns. And we still have the hand one that we can use if we need to, but we've been using this. We used this a couple of times to do, I think it was applesauce and plums, using a power station, and it was just one of my smallest power stations, but it worked just fine. It worked really well.
Took very little power.
Yeah.
Like very, very little power.
It only has 720 watt hours of storage, and it only used like 15% to do quite a large number of plums and apples. So it doesn't take much. And I love it so much that this year we decided we better get another one because
he's a prepper, and 1 is none and 2 is 1.
There we go. Exactly right. And so we've got this, you know, in case the part breaks, we've got another set. We've got replacement parts, or if it just flat wears out, then we'll keep the parts that we can and we'll have the new unit. But it has just truly been amazing. It's made this job so much easier.
And you can take, like, the apples that we did. So if you can tell these apples, have you noticed, okay, we don't spray our trees, right? And so we have some wormy apples. And we can just take these, and what we do is we quarter them, and we cut out any worms that are in them. And then we, well, they're washed, right? We wash them really well. And then we quarter them, take out bad spots, and then we put them in a big pot with some water and cook them down.
Yeah, and it becomes a date night, really. We put on a movie.
Our dates. Does anybody
sick,
else
huh?
think that we need to improve the quality of our dates?
We might need a little help, but
It is our date night. We put on a movie. He's right, and we'll just spend a lot of time together cutting them up. But so the pot, we put water in it, and we put all those apples in it, and then we boil it. We just cook it until they're all nice and soft, and that's what goes into here. And one of the reasons why I really like to make the applesauce, for one reason, it's incredibly versatile. Super fast when you have something like this. If you are peeling all of these by hand, like I have my father-in-law, he's amazing. His name is Paul, and before he died, he would make what he calls chunky applesauce, and he would take these apples and with a paring knife, peel them all and cut them, and it was an amazingly long process. The applesauce was fantastic. Chunky applesauce,
yeah.
Amazing.
Very tasty.
But it took way too long, and I don't have time for that. And so we can take apples that look like that and turn them into something that seriously is incredibly delicious, especially when you look, we've mixed all these different kinds. The flavor, it's always just a little bit unique, and it's one of the favorites at our house. And I want to show you a little bit of something. So with the plums that we got from our friend, we freeze dried them, which means all I had to do to freeze dry them was quarter them, cut out the bad spots, right, and pit them, and then we freeze dried them. Now I did the same thing with some of them, and we dehydrated them in our dehydrator. And plums, like freeze-dried or dried plums, they are super sweet, amazingly delicious. But then when I got too tired to be doing that, what we did is we just pitted the plums, and we made this plum nectar with them.
Same way,
plum
right?
sauce, sorry.
Yeah,
There's a
plum
difference
sauce
between the plum sauce and plum nectar.
Right. And we did the same thing, though. We just cut them, cooked them with a little bit of water.
Dumped them in there.
Very easy.
And it comes right out, and then you put them in the bottle. And the plum sauce, we don't put any sugar in it. And then you water bath can it according to the directions for your area and your elevation. But
right.
It's something called hot pack, because the plums that we're putting in here, the sauce is nice and hot, and it's just perfect for storage. Now we also make something called plum nectar. We didn't do any of that this year, but what we do with that is we just put more water in the pot when we boil it down, and then it's kind of this drinkable nectar. It's one of John's favorite beverages, should we say?
Yeah, with orange juice.
But the plum nectar, when he bottles that, he actually puts a little bit of sugar in after it's made a sauce, so that it's just the right
Sweetness.
thing for his palate.
Unlike you.
Yeah. Oh, he's working his way here. All right. Anyway, so there's a couple ways to do it, but a lot of our tomatoes are done in tomato juice. This was the salsa, which is seriously amazing, and it takes so much less time than actually bottling the tomatoes. And when I look at the end product, what am I using those tomatoes for? I'm usually using them in a chili or a soup or something where the chunks don't really matter. So I don't really have to take the time to do all of that when I'm processing this. Overall, like, I don't have any complaints at all about this. How many years have we been using this?
I think 4 or 5 years now we've been using this. So and it's never had a problem. The one thing that you do need to remember though, on something like plums, you have to make sure you get those pits out, because if that pit goes down, you can damage these little screens, because that little pit goes down the auger.
So
and
you want
it'll
to pull this apart and show them what the auger looks like. And we always store this in its original box down with our canning supplies so that we make sure we keep all the parts together, because losing a part would not be a good thing.
Yeah. So this is the auger, and it's very simple. The food just comes in here and it just pushes it out towards the end.
The screen, look, this one would take out the seeds. It would take out the seeds.
Oh, I've never thought of that before.
Yeah,
I have. Anyway, yeah, so that's the only caution is you get a plum pit in here, and it's going to go down here, and it's going to be fine till it gets about here or here, and then it's going to start pushing on that screen. You might ruin the screen. So you just have to be a little careful with that, but otherwise, wow, it has been just an amazing tool.
But we're super careful with our food anyway, like cutting all the bugs out and stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I do love my home processed applesauce, because I know what I've let be in here. And when I get it at the store, first of all, it doesn't taste anywhere near as good. Like if you've never tried applesauce like this, you've only tried the store applesauce, you do not know what you're missing. The tools that you have can make a huge difference. Would this be worth it if you aren't a canner? Absolutely not. If you're not going to bottle your own foods, you don't need to spend money on something like this. And maybe you only bottle once a year, like one small batch, or every other year you might do something. Well, then you need a friend like me who has the tool, who's willing to lend it to you. I have a few friends like that we kind of share and work together. But this can make all the difference when you really are trying to grow your own food and preserve it.
The question of the day: what tools do you use to preserve your harvest? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.